I want to see an Andrew Yang Tulsi Gabbard ticket in November. I want to see Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard get the Democratic nomination. I know the party partisans, uh, they won't like it. A lot of people won't like it, but that is the most electable ticket in November by my estimation. It'll flip the maximum number of Trump votes, which means not only gaining a vote but taking a vote away. It's it'll it would be the most ideologically broad coalition possible. You bring in the people who think like me on foreign policy and are alienated by the two party system. You bring in a wide range of different ideologies with Yang's campaign. You know, get some of the former MAGA people at the table. Get some of the former socialists like me at the table. Uh, get and I call myself a former socialist. I still have some I still have some far out there views, but the point is we all gotta talk to each other. We all gotta sit down and talk to each other. And regardless of how you feel about universal basic income in general, or about Yang's UBI plan specifically, I think the idea that we are all citizens of the United States of America are like investors in the country, and that the Yang Gang, it's like a great big giant board meeting. I think, for a socialist loser like me who knows nothing about the business world and has worked his whole life in education, it's a little bit intimidating to me, but I think it's a good idea for de-escalating, because we've been escalating for a while with the growing uh, polarization in our public discourse and with people on both sides of the aisle, but especially on the left, increasingly not talking to people that they don't agree with on politics. And, it's Yang Gabbard. It's not only the most electable ticket for the Democrats, it's also the best option for someone like me who's worried that we're heading towards a civil war in this country and that really nothing else matters. And there's so many people who are worked up about how climate change is going to kill us all soon. Like in the next few years, all the coastal cities are going to be underwater, and you know, it, like so many of them, if you say, I'm worried we're going to have a civil war. Ah, you're such a fear monger. I'm worried that robots are gonna take over millions and millions more low-paying jobs, and that these people won't have any source of income. Oh, you're a fear monger. Fear monger. No, 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 no. The robots are taking over. It's already happening. We're we are getting closer and closer to civil war, and I don't know if I'm the type of guy that you want anywhere near a campaign, because I'm kind of crazy and because I'm very cynical and I can be very pessimistic. But, but I think if there's anyone who would have a sense of humor about it, and about the tens of millions of people like me who don't vote, or in my case, usually don't vote. I voted once. All of us cynics and pessimists who don't believe in the system. I think if there's any opportunity for a candidate who's going to have a sense of humor about it, then it's Andrew Yang. Um, so I like that. Look. He calls himself the fourth industrial revolution candidate. I see him as the fourth wall candidate. He's the guy who can break the fourth wall. Um, that's what I see from his campaign. That's one of the things I really like, is that I think he can he's the person who has the most potential to change the way that people talk about politics. And I want, I'm making a promise to myself now that I'm gonna stop freaking out over the things that scare me in politics, and I'm gonna start having more fun with it and laughing a bit more. And I think I want to change the way people talk about politics, and uh, you know, regardless of your expectations for what the two-party system can do, I think Yang's my guy for my purpose of breaking the fourth wall about how this ridiculous circus, this toxic reality TV show works. I think that's what I like about what I'm seeing out of the Yang Gang. Um, so the look, I was a political science major. I thought I was going to go work in politics. I've been obsessed with politics my whole life. 2008, my sophomore year of college, the first time I was old enough to vote, the housing market crashed. Rampant fraud. Nobody except Bernie Madoff went to prison. That's because he stole from rich people. And it's like, I know I'm hardly alone in saying, well, all these people got bailed out and they were committing fraud. What what exactly do you expect to get out of voting, especially at the national level? Um, I that's that's where I am. So when I endorse a candidate, it's kind of inherently a little bit trolly, but I do really think that the growth of the Yang Gang, and Yang winning the nomination, and Yang and Tulsi Gabbard being more and more a part of the public discourse, I think it's the best option for our political system right now. I think there's so many problems that people aren't talking about, that uh, that if we want to have a free society and a democracy or whatever, then we have to. The robots are taking over. It's already happening. It's already happening. It's already happening. Millions of jobs and millions more, and it's connected to the whole Civil War issue, because the more people who are out of work, the worse the civil unrest is going to get, and the more we have these partisan candidates like Kamala Harris, the angrier and more divided we're going to get. And so I call myself a socialist loser. Um, I I also call myself an alt-right troll, and I also call myself non-ideological. I'm just whatever. Throw every label at me. I'm an alt-right socialist or whatever. These labels really shouldn't matter. They shouldn't matter so much. What should matter is just it's just that I like that the whole board meeting idea. The Yang Gang is the board meeting of investors where we're identifying problems. We're identifying problems that don't get enough attention, and we're trying to figure out step by step how to solve them. And instead of just this whole socialist dream that I used to think was realistic, where you just force rich people to, you know, make everything better, as if they're not. These people all have they have private jets and private islands. If we turn up the heat enough, they're just gonna leave. That's what they're gonna do. And how do you think you're gonna stop them? You're not. But I like the idea of a UBI where it's just everybody who's a citizen gets it. Everybody gets the check. It's you know the I like the concept. I like the idea that we're all getting that equal investment at the Yang Gang board meeting. So you know what? I'll give it a shot. I'd like to see it grow. And like I said, I don't really get directly involved in politics. It's not what I do because I'm a cynical pessimist, and I get very emotionally invested in not wanting to give an inch, and just fight all the corruption everywhere every time you see it. But you got to pick your battles, and to get someone like me involved, it no matter how much of a troll or an asshole as I sometimes am, you get me involved. It should be taken as a compliment because I don't get involved. So if I get involved, that's how I would do it. I like Yang. I like Gabbard. I was a longtime admirer of Senator Bernie Sanders, but I'm sick of him now after what happened in 2016. I'm I'm done with him. And it's too divisive anyway for where the country's at right now. It's too divisive anyway. We have to de-escalate. I'm treating this like I'm treating 2020 like the most difficult assignments that I would get as a substitute teacher, where it's an emergency, it's last minute, there's no lesson plan. Just make sure that the kids don't kill each other. That's what 2020 is to me. Just make sure that the kids don't kill each other. And that's really all there is. It's that simple. So in my expert opinion, the ticket that best serves that interest is Yang Gabbard, and the ticket that best serves my interest in breaking the fourth wall, and kind of like in some ways I'm a little bit envious of what Republican voters did in the last presidential election, because look, I don't like Trump. I didn't vote for Trump. I'm not going to vote for him this time either. But he was a fourth wall candidate for the Republicans. He was a fourth wall candidate. He got up on stage and And this is why I took his chances of winning seriously. As soon as he announced he was running, when everyone around me thought I was crazy that he might win, it was pretty much within like 2 or 3 weeks of him announcing he was running, I was taking seriously that he might win because he was a fourth wall candidate who was like, look, here's the way that advertising and publicity and media works is you create conflict and you put on the biggest show, the biggest, most controversial show, and the press is just going to have to eat it up. They won't be able to stop. They have to cover it because it gets ratings. And there's also another side to this where there's some very dangerous people who want us all fighting with each other, who want a civil war to happen. But it's like what Trump did, and he's not a politician. He's literally not. He's never held public office. And Yang is not a politician. And Yang's Yang's not Trump, obviously, but if anybody on the Democratic side is going to break the fourth wall, I think it's Yang. I think he has the potential to do the Democratic Party version of what Trump did for Republican voters, which is, you know, look behind the curtain at look behind the curtain at the great and powerful Oz. It's we have all these politicians who make all of these big promises, and you know they've they've got all of their different sponsors, and it's like meanwhile you have Yang saying like it's there's stuff that goes on Wall Street, and it's it's a lot crazier and worse in many ways than even the far left people understand, because your socialist heroes either don't know or they don't care enough to tell you everything they know, which is very common, it seems. But in the meantime, Yang he can have fun with this thing and get everybody talking to each other, and poke fun at himself and not take himself too seriously, and go look. It's ultimately about whether you guys, the voters, are are smart enough to read between the lines and figure stuff out, and mature enough to act like adults and hash out your differences without trashing the place. And so, to to the socialist losers like me, and to the alt-right trolls also like me, and to the non-ideological people also like me, and whatever label you want to assign yourself, whatever label other people are trying to force on you, I just want everybody in the same place talking about the news stories that the press doesn't want to talk about, the automation, the growing chances of civil war. It's a lot of other stuff too, and let's break the fourth wall. I don't I don't know what'll happen after the dust settles, after the election's over, and it's time for change in 2021 or whatever. But let's at least change the conversation in the meantime. And so here I am as this very cynical person who doesn't like getting his hands dirty and getting involved and sticking his neck out for any of these politicians. For whatever it's worth, here I am saying uh, I want to see a Yang Gabbard ticket. Yang Gabbard.